Hey everyone, it's Carissa. Welcome to Satur-YAY. We are celebrating the weekend by getting our craft on. And today we are going to take a closer look at Thermoweb's Deco Foil Transfer Gel. Now this is a gel medium that you can apply through a stencil, and it provides you with another way of applying your transfer foils to your projects. This is a little different because it leaves you with a little bit of dimension like an embossing paste would, but it reacts with heat in order to cause your transfer foils to bind to your paper. I'm going to be using my transfer gel with some stencils today. All of these stencils that I'm using are from My Favorite Things, and you can actually see that I'm opening this transfer gel for the first time. I haven't played with it before, so you're gonna kind of see me as I go through the experimentation of this. Now I'm applying my transfer gel through the stencil using a palette knife, but you could also use an old credit card for this. You don't necessarily have to have a palette knife. And I am going to allow the edges of this to kind of be free and not crisp. If you wanted some crisp edges on your stenciling, you could definitely mask areas of the stencil off, but I thought I would just kind of allow this to kind of be free and fade off. So this first one I'm using is the raindrop stencil. You can see before I removed the stencil, I went ahead and scraped the excess off, and I'm left with that transfer gel on my paper. Now I'm going to do several of these. I'm doing some with patterns in the lower right hand portion, and I'm doing some with patterns in the middle upper portion of these. And as I said before, all of these stencils will be listed in the supplies below. Now this transfer gel goes on white and it dries clear, so that will help you know when it's dry. But keep in mind, you are going to have a little bit of dry time for this transfer gel. Now I chose not to tape down my stencils. I'm just holding them in place, but if you would like to tape them down to keep them in the same place, you can. And I know that all of you out there are going to ask, can you stamp with this transfer gel? So I thought I would go ahead and experiment with that while I had all of my supplies out. Now I'm applying this transfer gel directly from the container onto this wonky backdrop stamp. This is from the Essentials by Ellen Line, and I'm just using a makeup sponge to apply it on there. Now I did learn there is a little bit of learning curve when applying this to your stamp. You kind of have to make sure it's not too thick where you don't lose the details of your stamp, but you want to make sure that it's thick enough that you cover the entire stamp. Does that make sense? So this first one, I didn't get a great impression and I knew it wasn't going to foil well, so I thought I would try it again. I brought in my craft mat and I put a little bit of the transfer gel onto my craft mat. And then once again, I am going to use one of these wonky backdrop stamps, and I'm going to apply this transfer gel to the stamp using a makeup applicator once again. And I'm making sure that I kind of keep it a little bit thinner so that it's not glopped up between the edges of those dots that I'm creating. And I'm kind of working fast because it is such a thin coat, I don't want it to dry on me. And then when I was done, I went ahead and stamped it onto some Neenah Solar White cardstock, and I got a much better result that time. Now, all of the transfer gel that I did all of this on Neenah Solar White cardstock, just the regular 90-pound cardstock, or 80-pound cardstock, I'm sorry. And then for these images here, you can see I'm using a My Favorite Things all heart stamp set. I'm stamping these little images onto some Canson watercolor paper using some VersaFine Onyx Black pigment ink. Now this pigment ink will dry permanent, so I'm going to be doing these in a little bit of a watercolor technique, and so I wanted to make sure I had a permanent ink, and VersaFine is honestly one of my favorite black inks. Now before I get into the watercolor, I want to make sure this ink is nice and dry, so I went ahead and heat set it with my heat tool, and then I am going to use my Zig Art and Graphic twin markers to do some watercolor. So you can see I'm just applying a little bit of color onto the image where I want it to be the darkest. And then I'm actually blending it out and creating that watercolor effect using my Wink of Stella clear glitter brush pen. And this is going to leave me with a watercolor effect that has some nice shimmer to it. And if you want more information on these Zig pens, I actually did a comparison on them, and I'll make sure I throw in a card for that video here. So through the magic of television, All of my images are colored, and now I'm using some Frog Delicate Surface Painter's Tape to adhere my dies onto the images and run them through my die cut machine to cut them out. Now I love the way that these dies kind of cut around those heart raindrops that are on that umbrella. And since these images are rather small, I chose a more subdued foil for my effects today. So I'm using this antique pearl foil, and I am going to run these through my ink machine. Now keep in mind, the Deco Foil Transfer Gel is a heat reactive medium. So in order to make your foil stick to it, you will have to use a heat something or another. I'm using the Mink today. I have it on the 3 setting. You can also use a laminator for this technique as well, but you do need to apply some heat and a little bit of pressure, which the Mink does for me, in order to cause this transfer gel to stick. Now I went ahead and did the image that I stamped using the transfer gel first because I was kind of not sure how great my results were going to be at first, and I was actually really surprised. I did plenty of these backgrounds so that I could have some room for error, and I got great results with every one of these. So you can see as I run one through, I'm getting the next one ready so that I can run these through rather quickly, but it does take a little bit of time to run these through your Mink machine. And like I said before, this is allowing this to heat up and cause the foil to stick to that transfer gel. So you can see this is the scallops that I created here. You get that very beautiful antique pearl finish, but you could use this with any of your transfer foils. So anything in the Mink line or in the Thermo Deco foil line, you can use with this transfer gel. As long as it's a heat reactive foil, you can use it. So you can see here's the raindrops that I have here, and I got a little bit of that transfer gel along the side. So like I said, if you want this to be a more crisp image, you may want to mask off the areas that you want to apply the transfer gel to so that you don't have any bleed over on the edge. Now, as I'm running these through, I'm preparing the next one, and I did want to mention that I'm placing these into my Mink carrier sheet with the transfer gel facing up towards me. And then I'm applying the foil over the top of it with the pretty side up so that the back side is touching the transfer gel. And you can see I'm getting great results every single time. I was blown away at how easy this was. So I wanted to show you that you can use any of the transfer foils with this. So I went ahead and threw a piece of this rainbow foil on here just to show you the results with that. And all of these leave me with this very dimensional foiled look. It is so different than if you use toner or anything like that to apply your foil. This has a much more dimensional look, and you can make it as thick or as thin as you want. And you would just do that by applying the transfer gel either thicker or thinner according to what you want for your project. Now, in order to finish these projects off, I kept it really simple because I wanted the focus to remain on those dimensional foiled backdrops that I created. So I just heat embossed some sentiments and applied my watercolored and die-cut stamped images on using a little bit of foam adhesive. And I did add a few sequins to a few of the projects here. So you can see all of the different results that I got here. I really had a great time playing with this transfer gel, and quite honestly, this is only scratching the surface of what you can do with this, in my opinion. I can't wait to explore this on an even deeper level. And I think I would have even kept going had the police not shown up at my house that day, but that's a story for a whole nother day. As always, thanks for stopping by today. I will have all the products used in these projects linked in the video description at YouTube, but be sure you head to the Coordinating Classroom blog post because I will have more information, more still shots, and a complete list of supplies over there for you as well. I hope you enjoyed these projects, and until next time, happy Satur-YAY, and I hope you have a fabulous day.